BeauSoleil right there in concert. Joining us right now is Michael Doucet, an American singer, songwriter, and musician best known as the founder of the Cajun band BeauSoleil. Welcome to KVMR, Michael.
Thank you, Steve. Nice to be here.
And Michael, maybe you could tell us about how you got interested in Cajun music.
Well, we never called it Cajun music growing up. I mean, I'm from Southwest Louisiana. Grew up on a farm, basically. We called it French music or old people's music when we were growing up, and we were very aware that it was different than other things that we'd see at that time on television or different things. So it's something there was something that was apparent that people. Different households our relatives shared. In other words, there was always big parties where everybody would play and sing and have a great time. So that's how I grew up with what we now call Cajun music, what I call French music.
Only you have done much more with it by combining it with a good number of other genres, huh?
Yeah, well, I think that was the nature of our music, the French music. Anyway, it was, you talk about the roots of this. Well, I mean, there were known people who were the French people who came to the New World in the 1600s. They were called Acadians, what is now Nova Scotia. So that's where the word comes. They were Acadians in French, and so when roughly 20% of them ended up in Louisiana, it was mispronounced Cajun to Cajun. This is like Indian for Indian. But nevertheless, it was like it's a long line of different ideas and songs. But basically, it's a community music. It's music for the community because everybody works hard and then you play hard here. And so it's the ups and downs and the trials of life and everything like that. And it's all in the music. And a sad song might be a jolly two-step, and a sad lyric might be a nice lyric might be a really sad waltz. So it's hard to tell what's going on.
It sounds like it, I'll tell you. And you're going on 50 years of doing BeauSoleil.
Can you believe that? Yeah, and we're celebrating 50 years next year. I mean, that was the origin of it. I mean, we didn't have a name. I didn't name the group till 2 years later when we went to France, and actually that's when we did our first album, 1976. So this is 70. This was 73 and 74 actually, and it was great because we got together. There was three of us who started. Basically, Bessel Duyon, Kenneth Richard, and I, and we went to Bessel's dad's camp outside of Holly Beach. Have you ever heard of Holly Beach, Louisiana?
I don't think I have, but now I have.
It's sometimes referred to as the Cajun Riviera for a lot of reasons. It's usually the first place that the hurricanes hit. And, a lot of my family had camps up there, for decades until they got wiped out in 1957. But anyway, so we were up there, and there was a place there that it's not there anymore because of the hurricanes. It was called Les Bons Temps Roulés. It was a nightclub, a bar, and we walked in there, and we were kind of straggly looking. I mean, we had long hair, beards, and stuff like that. And it was like the proverbial, you walk into a place and everybody stops talking. And then we started speaking French, and all of a sudden people were buying us beer, and then they found out we were musicians. So we played there all night. That's how BeauSoleil started.
Wow! And how did the name come about?
Well, there's in our family heritage, the Acadians. It's amazing. They were deported by the English because the English wanted their lands, and the Acadians refused to take up the English crown. In other words, they refused to let go of their French language, their Catholicism, and their background. So they were deported. Some 12,000 were deported, and like I said, maybe 10% actually made it to Louisiana. It happens because it's like that's who we were. And for some reason they stayed in touch. Like both sides of my family were actually in 1755. They were deported to France, to a little island off the coast of Brittany called Belle-Île-en-Mer. And it wasn't until 1763 that they were awarded some actually Spanish land grants to come back to Louisiana, because at that time French had seceded Louisiana to Spain. So they got here on Spanish land grants, but they were always, the extended families were big, and somehow they kept pretty good communication.
And I think I read that you actually started out doing sort of a rock band at maybe age 12 or something like that.
Didn't we all? Yeah, it was so funny. My cousin and I, of course, we love the Rolling Stones. Of course, I was Keith Richards. He was Mick Jagger. And it turned out to be that Keith Richards called me to play on his solo record, the expensive wino. So that's a funny circle that happened. Yes, I grew up in that era. I loved Elvis Presley. When I was even 6 or 7, I didn't have a guitar. I had a banjo. I knew all Elvis's songs. And I loved that music. And, just music was just around when I was growing up. But the group you're talking about, we had a group called Koto. That was from 1974 to 1977. And it was called the Cajun Grateful Dead. And that group, we had a lot of experimentation to do, a lot of creativity, because we took old songs and we expanded them. So we, at that time, this what we call Cajun music or French music today was not at the high end of it. People were kind of not very proud of it. And so we took upon ourselves and said, we brought the old people and young people together. And that's Koto. So that was sort of the fire burners of what they call the Cajun or Acadian Renaissance in Louisiana.
Have you ever thought of doing an Elvis on banjo album?
Now that you mention it, no. I gave him my banjo. I'm sorry. Where's my banjo? Oh, that's right. We needed firewood.
Now, but you play a variety of instruments, correct?
Well, I try.